During what was supposed to be a happy night, Daniel showed his true self. He left me for a wealthy stranger, threw his wedding ring on the floor in front of everyone, and walked away. My heart shattered, and the room went silent. I never saw it coming. My name is Emily, and I've been married to Daniel for 5 years. We've had our ups and downs, but we always managed to get through them. This year's annual charity gala was supposed to celebrate our new home and the fresh start we were excited about. The night began with laughter and champagne. Everything felt right. But as the evening went on, I noticed Daniel getting distracted. His eyes kept darting across the room, like he was looking for someone. I told myself it was just nerves or party jitters. Still, a quiet unease started to grow inside me. Something felt off, but I didn't want to admit it. I kept hoping it was nothing and that the night would stay as perfect as it started. Towards the end of the gala, the music was louder and people were starting to relax more. I was scanning the room when I saw Daniel talking quietly with a woman I hadn't seen before. She was dressed really elegantly, wearing a dark green dress and red lipstick. They were standing near the bar, away from most of the guests. It felt strange, like they were having a private conversation in the middle of a crowded room. I walked over, trying to keep my voice casual. As I got closer, I noticed the woman slipped a business card into Daniel's hand. That made me pause. I didn't recognize the name on the card or the company, but it looked fancy. I interrupted. "Hey, who's this?" Daniel looked up at me, a little surprised, but quickly covered it with a smile. "Oh, she's a potential business investor. Just talking shop," he said, his tone light. I glanced at Daniel's left hand, and something caught my eye. His wedding ring was missing. I stared for a moment, trying to make sense of it. I asked him softly, "Where's your ring? Did you take it off?" He laughed, but it didn't sound genuine. He said, "I must have misplaced it during the night. These things happen." His smile didn't reach his eyes, and something about it didn't sit right with me. I looked back at the woman. She was watching us with a slight, knowing smile, like she was enjoying the moment. Daniel's body language changed too. He looked less relaxed, almost like he was waiting for me to move on. I didn't say anything more. Instead, I just nodded and stepped back, feeling a tight knot form in my stomach. The rest of the gala passed in a blur after that. Daniel seemed distracted and kept checking his phone. I kept catching quick glances between him and the woman, who was now mingling with other guests but still seemed to be keeping an eye on him. The whole scene felt off, but I wasn't sure how to say it out loud yet. Later, I tried to shake the feeling. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe Daniel really did just lose his ring for a bit. But the way he brushed off my question didn't feel like the Daniel I knew. I kept replaying the moment when I saw the business card and his bare finger. It was a small thing, but it made a big crack in the night that was supposed to be a celebration. I thought about asking him again, but I didn't want to cause a scene in front of everyone. So I waited, watching and listening, hoping I was wrong. But deep down, I knew something wasn't right. The woman, the card, the missing ring, they all added up to a silence I didn't want to hear. I thought I could ignore it, but that night, I couldn't. We got into the car after the gala, and I sat there, hands gripping the door handle like I was holding myself together. Daniel started the engine and pulled out of the parking lot, but I waited a moment before I spoke. I needed to know. I finally said, "Why was your wedding ring off? And who was that woman really?" I kept my voice steady, but inside everything felt tight and raw. He didn't look at me. His eyes stayed on the road, like he was already trying to forget the whole night. Then he said, "You've always been the jealous type, Emily. She's just a friend from work." The way he said it, casual, like it was nothing, made my chest tighten even more. It didn't sound like truth, not even close. Just a friend from work. That didn't explain the way they were whispering or the business card she handed him. I swallowed hard and pressed on. "Daniel, don't lie to me. Why were you hiding her from me? And why is your ring missing?" My voice was quieter now, but firmer. I needed something real, not this easy excuse. I saw his jaw clench, but he still didn't turn to face me. "I told you it's nothing. Stop making a scene." I wanted to believe him, but the more he pushed me away, the more I felt like I was losing him. I asked, "Since when do you take off your ring at a party? And why didn't you tell me about this friend?" The silence that followed was heavy. I could hear the hum of the engine, the faint sound of traffic outside, but nothing from him. Then his voice cracked, sharp and quick. "Because I don't have to explain myself to you every minute, Emily. You're making a scene over nothing." His tone was sudden, angry almost, and it shocked me. I didn't expect him to snap like that. I looked over, finally meeting his eyes in the rearview mirror. There was frustration there, but also something colder, like he wanted me to back off. I stayed quiet. I didn't want to push too hard, not yet. But inside, a part of me was breaking. How did we get to this point? Where my questions felt like attacks, and his answers were walls. I thought of the way his ring was gone, the way he'd brushed off my concerns at the gala, the way that woman smiled at him like she owned the room. I tried once more, softer this time. I'm not trying to cause trouble, Daniel. I just want to understand what's happening between us. He took a deep breath, his hands tightening on the wheel. Then without turning, he said, "You don't understand because you don't want to. Just drop it." That was the moment I realized this wasn't about a missing ring or a business card anymore. It was something else, something I couldn't reach. I swallowed the lump in my throat and nodded slightly, though he couldn't see it. The car fell into a heavy silence after that. I stared out the window, watching the city lights blur past, trying to make sense of the man I thought I knew. I thought it was just a bad night, just nerves or stress. But the way he avoided my questions, the coldness in his voice, it told me this was deeper than I wanted to admit. I wanted to scream at him, to demand the truth, but I held it inside. Because deep down, I already knew the answers wouldn't come easy. The silence between us wasn't peaceful. It was full of things unsaid. We pulled up to our building, and I reached for the door handle, not trusting myself to say more. Daniel didn't say a word as I got out of the car. I closed the doors softly behind me, feeling the weight of everything pressing down. I thought maybe tomorrow would bring clarity, but I had a sinking feeling the damage was already done. The music was still playing when Daniel came up to me, but everything felt like it slowed down. He wasn't alone. The woman from before, the one I hadn't recognized, was right behind him. She looked confident, dressed sharply, like she belonged to a different world than ours. Daniel had that same mocking grin he'd worn earlier, the one that didn't reach his eyes. He stopped a few feet away, and then, without a word, he took off his wedding ring and tossed it right at my feet. It clinked against the floor, drawing the attention of a few nearby guests. I stared down at it, feeling everything freeze inside me. The symbol of our 5 years together, just thrown away like trash. "Meet Vanessa," Daniel said, his voice loud enough for others to hear. "She's made me realize what real success looks like, and I'm ready for a change." His words hit me like a sharp blade. I blinked, trying to understand if I'd heard him right. I looked up at him, searching for any sign that this was some kind of joke. There was none. His eyes were cold, almost pleased with himself, like he was proud of what he was doing. Vanessa smirked beside him, the kind of smirk that said she knew exactly what was happening and was enjoying it. I stumbled back, my hand reaching out to grab the railing behind me to keep from falling. My legs felt weak, like they couldn't hold me up. But I stayed standing, even if barely. I couldn't believe he was doing this here, in front of all these people who had come to celebrate what we had. "You can go home alone tonight," Daniel said, his voice cutting through the room again. "We're done." I didn't say anything. It felt like my mouth was full of dust, unable to form words. The room was spinning, faces blurring around me, but his words kept ringing out clearly. "We're done." I caught a few glances from the crowd. Some looked shocked, some whispered to each other. I could feel the weight of their eyes, but all I could focus on was the ring on the floor, the woman at Daniel's side, and the man I thought I knew walking away from me in the most public, humiliating way possible. Vanessa stepped closer, brushing her hand lightly on Daniel's arm. They looked like a couple, like they already shared a life. I wanted to say something, anything, but no voice came out. My hands clenched into fists at my sides. Daniel's gaze flicked to me one last time, cold and final. Then he turned and walked away with Vanessa, leaving me standing there, stunned and alone in the middle of the room. The noise of the gala came back slowly. Laughter, music, the clinking of glasses, but it all felt distant. I looked down at the wedding band again. It was just a small piece of metal, but it carried everything we had built. Now it was just a reminder of what I had lost. I took a deep breath and forced myself to steady my shaking hands. People were watching, but I didn't care. I didn't want to cry here, not now. Not when he had made such a show of throwing us both away. I thought it was over, but the silence that followed said otherwise. I left the gala in a daze. The hall was still buzzing behind me, but all I could hear was the noise fading into a dull roar. People whispered as I walked past, their eyes flicking toward me, but I barely noticed. My mind was spinning, trying to make sense of what had just happened. Daniel's words, The way he threw his wedding ring at my feet, Vanessa's smirk. It all felt like a bad dream I couldn't wake from. I stepped outside and pulled out my phone. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped it. I called an Uber without thinking much about it. The tears started falling before I even sat down on the curb. I wiped my cheeks roughly, but the tears blurred my vision anyway. I felt hollow, like I had been emptied out from the inside. The cold night air hit me, but I barely noticed. I just kept staring at the pavement, trying to hold myself together. When the Uber arrived, I climbed in and closed the door behind me. I wanted to disappear, to go somewhere safe where no one could see me like this. The driver was quiet, and I didn't say much either. I just stared out the window, watching the city lights blur as the car moved. My mind jumped between memories from the past few months, trying to find a clue I had missed. Was there a sign? Something I overlooked? I kept replaying every conversation, every look Daniel gave me, searching for the moment I should have known. When I got home, I didn't even take off my coat. I walked straight to the sofa and just collapsed onto it. The cushions swallowed me up, but I felt no comfort. My heart was pounding, but my body was numb. I closed my eyes and tried to breathe, but the memories wouldn't stop racing. The laughter from earlier that night, the champagne glasses clinking, Daniel's distracted eyes, they all felt like they belonged to someone else's life, not mine. After a few minutes, I reached for my phone again. My fingers trembled as I dialed Lisa's number. She was my best friend, the one person I trusted completely. When she answered, her voice was warm and steady, like a lifeline reaching across the chaos in my head. "Emily? What's wrong?" Lisa's voice was full of concern, but calm. I couldn't get the words out at first. I just started crying again, quieter this time, like a broken whisper. "It's Daniel. He left me. At the gala. With that woman. Vanessa." He threw his ring at my feet and said we're done. There was a long pause on the other end. Then Lisa said softly, "I'm so sorry, Emily. I'm here for you. You're not alone." Her voice wrapped around me like a blanket. For the first time since that moment at the gala, I felt a small crack open inside, a tiny space where hope could maybe grow. Lisa didn't try to fix things or tell me what to do. She just listened. She let me talk through the pain without judgment. She reminded me that I didn't have to face this alone. "I don't know what to do," I admitted. "Everything feels broken." Lisa's response was steady, the kind that helps you breathe when you can't. "One step at a time. You don't have to have all the answers now. Just focus on getting through today." We talked for a while longer. I told her about the past year, about the little things that had felt off, about how I tried to ignore the gut feeling gnawing at me. She listened without interrupting, making sure I felt heard. When I finally hung up, the room felt a little less empty. The tears were still there, but now they carried something different, something softer. I didn't have any answers yet, but Lisa's words planted the first seeds of clarity in the mess. I knew the road ahead would be hard, but I wasn't completely alone. I sat there on the sofa, the silence settling around me. The night outside was quiet, but inside, my mind was still racing. I thought it was over, but the silence that followed said otherwise. The next morning, my phone rang just as I was trying to shake off the haze from the night before. I didn't recognize the number at first, but something told me to answer. It was Mr. Thompson, Daniel's boss. His voice sounded strained, like he was holding back disbelief or maybe disappointment. "Is Daniel all right?" he asked right away. "Because what happened last night, it's not like him." I swallowed hard, feeling the weight of those words. Mr. Thompson went on, saying Daniel had always been a family man, someone dependable. "I don't know what's going on with him lately, but this behavior, it's out of character, and it's starting to worry people here." I stayed quiet for a moment, not sure how much to say. I wanted to explain everything, but the truth was still sinking in for me too. I could hear the concern in his voice. It hit me then that Daniel's impulsive choices weren't just shaking up our lives. They might cost him at work. This wasn't just about us anymore. Mr. Thompson mentioned how the company had been talking after the gala. Apparently, Daniel's public display, throwing his wedding ring and walking out with that woman, had sparked rumors and questions. "It's complicated," he said quietly, "and it might affect how the board sees him. He could face real consequences." Hearing that made my chest tighten. I hadn't thought about Daniel's actions beyond how betrayed I felt. But now, the ripple effect was clear. His decisions weren't just personal. They were professional, too. And whatever came next at work could make everything worse. I told Mr. Thompson I didn't have all the answers. That Daniel and I were dealing with some serious issues. He thanked me for being honest and said he hoped Daniel would get the support he needed. Then he paused, like he wanted to say more but held back. After the call ended, I sat there with the phone still in my hand, feeling this strange mix of sadness and a small, hard edge of relief. At least someone else knew what was happening now. Someone who understood that this wasn't just a one-night mistake, but something deeper. I thought about Daniel and the man I thought I knew. The man who was always so careful about his image at work, the one who smiled and told stories at company dinners. Now, that image was shattered, and I wasn't sure if it could ever be fixed. It was the first sign that the fallout from last night wasn't going to be contained to just our marriage. Daniel was going to face consequences in every corner of his life. And as much as it hurt, part of me felt like this was the moment everything started to come undone for him. I didn't know what would happen next, but hearing Mr. Thompson's voice made it clear this was just the beginning of a much bigger reckoning. I thought I was still numb, but inside, something was shifting. The distance between us wasn't just emotional now. It was going to be real and permanent. I looked around our quiet apartment, still feeling the silence where Daniel's presence used to be. The phone call echoed in my mind, a reminder that some choices have consequences far beyond what you can see at the moment. I thought it was over, but the silence that followed said otherwise. After the shock of the gala started to wear off, I knew I had to do something. Sitting alone that afternoon, I pulled out all the papers I'd kept, bank statements, emails between Daniel and his work contacts, even the photos I'd taken at the event. I needed to get a clear picture. I wasn't sure what I was going to find, but I had to try to take control of this mess. I called a divorce lawyer I had looked up a few years ago, just in case something ever went sideways. Her name was Karen, and she had a small office downtown. When I sat down with her, I felt a strange mix of fear and relief. I told her everything. Daniel's abandonment at the gala, the way he tossed his ring and introduced Vanessa like I was nothing. I showed her the emails and the bank statements, including the $15,000 transfer I noticed last week to some rental agency that I hadn't recognized at first. It felt good to lay it all out, even if it hurt. Karen listened carefully, nodding as I spoke. When I finished, she said, "Emily, his public behavior and the way he left you like that, it's significant. It shows abandonment and could definitely work in your favor." I didn't expect her to say that so plainly. I had thought maybe I'd have to fight hard just to get a fair split, but hearing that made me feel less helpless. She explained the process, gathering everything that showed how Daniel had acted, how he treated me, and how his choices impacted our marriage. She emphasized the importance of the financial documents I'd brought, saying they could help prove the instability he caused. It was a lot to take in, but the way she talked made me feel like I wasn't just a victim. I was someone who could fight back. We went through my options. Karen was realistic. She said divorces like this were never easy, especially when there was a public scandal involved. But she also said that my case was strong. The fact that Daniel had openly declared he was done with me, in front of all those people, could change the dynamic. It was not just about separating assets anymore. It was about standing up for myself. After the meeting, I packed up all the papers and receipts into a folder. For once, I wasn't just waiting for things to happen. I was making them happen. I thought about how just a few days ago, I felt powerless, like I was drowning in disbelief. Now, I had a plan. It was still painful, but it was something I could hold on to. That night, I sat on the edge of the couch, the folder next to me. I stared at my phone, but didn't feel like calling anyone. I just needed a moment to breathe, to let the weight sink in. I wasn't sure how Daniel would respond if he found out I was moving forward like this, but honestly, I didn't care. The silence in the room was different now. It wasn't empty or heavy. It was quiet, but steady. There was a small, strange relief in knowing I wasn't alone anymore, even if this was just the beginning. I had taken the first step toward rebuilding my life on my own terms. The gala might have been the end of something, but this meeting with Karen was the start of something else, something I was determined to see through. A week after the gala, Daniel asked to meet me. He said he wanted to talk things over. I wasn't sure if I was ready, but I agreed. We met at the small cafe, just a few blocks from our home. It was quiet, nothing like the chaos of that night. He showed up looking tired, like he hadn't slept. He didn't smile, just nodded when I saw him. We sat down across from each other. The waiter took our orders, and then Daniel started talking. He said he was sorry for how things went down. He said he was following his heart, and seeking true happiness. His voice was low, like he wanted me to believe he was sincere. I listened without saying much. I wanted to hear what he had to say, but I already knew the truth. I could see it in his eyes. He wasn't ready to face what he'd done. He kept trying to explain his side, like if he said it enough, I'd understand. But nothing he said could fix what happened. After he finished, I reached into my bag and pulled out a manila envelope. Inside were the divorce papers I'd already gotten from the lawyer. I placed them on the table between us and looked straight at him. "This is where we are, Daniel," I said quietly. He stared at the papers, his expression shifting slowly. At first, there was confusion. Then, frustration. Finally, the realization hit him. I saw it in the way his hands tightened into fists. He picked up the papers and scanned through them. His eyes flicked over every page, every line. The words on those pages were cold and final, and for the first time, I think he saw the real consequences of his choices. Daniel didn't say anything for a long moment. The cafe noise filled the silence between us. I watched his face closely. The bravado he had at the gala was gone. There was no smirk, no arrogance. Just a man confronted with what he'd lost. He looked up at me, and I could tell he wanted to say something, but no words came out. I didn't reach for his hand. I didn't offer comfort. This was a moment he had to face alone. The divorce papers were more than just legal documents. They were the end of the story we had written together. His betrayal wasn't hidden behind fancy clothes or public scenes anymore. It was plain and real. I felt a weight lift from my chest, but also a quiet sadness. This was the moment I had been preparing for, but it still hurt. I had to remind myself that this was necessary, that I deserved better. Daniel folded the papers slowly and put them back in the envelope. He stood up without a word and left the cafe. I sat there for a while, letting the silence settle around me. The world outside kept moving, but inside, everything had changed. I thought it was over, but the quiet that followed said otherwise. It's been about a month since I moved into my new apartment. It's smaller than the place Daniel and I shared, but it's mine. I'm surrounded by friends and family who have been steady through all this. They check in on me, bring meals, and sometimes just sit with me in silence. It's been a quiet kind of support, nothing overwhelming, just enough to remind me I'm not alone. Therapy started a couple of weeks after I moved in. At first, I wasn't sure it would help. I thought maybe I could just push through it myself. But sitting across from my therapist, I began to untangle the mess Daniel left behind. We talked a lot about betrayal and abandonment, about how those feelings don't just vanish overnight. The sessions aren't easy. Some days I leave feeling raw, like I've been rubbed the wrong way. Other days, I feel a little lighter, like maybe I'm starting to heal. Daniel's choices haven't just hurt me. I learned from a mutual friend that his boss, Mr. Thompson, put him on probation after the gala incident. Apparently, his behavior there was shocking even to the people who thought they knew him best. It's strange to think that his actions are costing him professionally, but I don't feel any satisfaction in that. It's just another part of the fallout I have to accept. Every day, I'm reminded of the life I lost. Sometimes, when I'm alone, I catch myself reaching for my phone to check a message from Daniel or to call him. Then I remember there's nothing left to say. The trust is broken, and no apology or explanation can fix that. The silence where our conversations used to be is heavy, but it's also freeing in a way I didn't expect. The sense of betrayal still lingers. It's like a shadow that follows me around, especially when I'm tired or feeling vulnerable. But with each passing day, I notice something else growing stronger inside me. It's a quiet confidence, a steady sense that I can build a life on my own terms. I'm learning to embrace that. I've started to do things I put off for years. Taking a pottery class, joining a book club, even planning a small trip with Lisa. These aren't grand gestures. They're small steps, but they matter. Each one feels like reclaiming a part of myself that went missing. Some nights are harder than others. When I lie awake, memories of the gala flood back. The shock, the humiliation, the moment Daniel threw his ring away. I don't pretend it doesn't hurt, but I've stopped letting those memories control me. Instead, I focus on what's ahead. I'm not the same person I was before all this. I'm more cautious, sure, but also more aware of what I deserve. I've come to understand that my worth isn't tied to the promises Daniel broke or the life he walked away from. It's in how I choose to move forward. There's still a long way to go. Healing isn't linear, and I know there will be setbacks. But for now, I'm holding on to the small victories, the moments when I feel whole again, even if just for a little while. This new apartment feels like the start of something different. Not just a place to live, but a space where I'm learning to trust myself again. I thought losing Daniel would mean losing everything. But slowly, I'm finding out that sometimes, losing one life is how you make room for another. It's been some time since everything fell apart that night at the gala. I'm in a much better place now, though the memory still stings every once in a while. I've learned to put my happiness first. I focus on things that matter to me, not just what Daniel wanted or expected. Picking up hobbies I'd pushed aside helped me find myself again. Painting, long walks, even that cooking class I always said I'd try. I've built a small but solid support system around me. Lisa has been there every step of the way, and a few close friends helped more than I realized at first. Their presence reminded me I'm not alone, even when it felt like my whole world had shifted. It's been hard to rebuild trust in others and myself, but it's happening, little by little. The whole experience taught me resilience in a way I didn't expect. I see now how important self-respect is, especially when you're caught in something that breaks you down. It's strange to think the pain from Daniel's betrayal turned into something that made me stronger. I don't know what the future holds, but I'm ready to face it on my own terms. I'm not defined by that night or by him anymore. I'm just Emily, moving forward one day at a time. If you're going through something like this, please remember you deserve respect and honesty. It's hard to admit when someone you trusted breaks that, but don't let it make you doubt your worth. Don't be afraid to ask for help, whether that's from friends, family, or a professional. It's okay to take your time and figure out what you need to heal. Taking action to protect yourself is not being selfish. It's necessary. Whether that means setting boundaries, talking to a lawyer, or just finding a safe space, those steps matter. Betrayal hurts deeply, but it can also push you to grow and find strength you didn't know you had. I never thought I'd get here, but I'm learning to trust myself again. There's no quick fix or easy path, but with each day, the pain gets a little less sharp. I'm not saying it's gone, but I'm stronger, and I believe you can be too. Keep holding on to that hope for a better future. You're not alone, and there is a chance to rebuild and find happiness on your own terms. Just take it one step at a time.